Welcome to Sunday Morning Quarterback with Jay Stockwell and Bob Frady.
Bob Frady, I am so excited about this podcast because we have a double secret special guest in the great Adam Carriker, the People's Show guy. Love that guy. Literally, my go-to right after the game is Adam Carriker. So it's an honor to meet you, sir, and have you bring credibility to our show because we need it.
Because we're lacking in it. We're severely lacking in credibility.
Oh, you guys do a great job. I had actually reached out to Jay about your guys' show. I think a DM on X. I always want to call it Twitter still, but a DM on Twitter, and you guys do a great job, and appreciate you having me.
I was here to find someone even more obsessed with Nebraska football than we are. Now,
yeah.
But see, you have a problem in that you played the game for the university, so you know what success looks like, and you made the league in the whole 9 yards. We're just a couple of fans. We don't know anything about anything except that we're fans and we back the team because that's what we do. Now you're gonna have to enlighten us about some of the more technical aspects because listen, I'm a human pipe cleaner here. I haven't played football since 7th grade, so
that's all right.
So,
nothing wrong with that.
Let's start with who you are. You're a Nebraska guy. You're a Hastings guy, and you came up in the mid 2000s. Played for, I guess, Bo Pelini primarily, right? Is that right?
So Bo was the D coordinator my redshirt freshman year under Solich. So my first couple of years were under Solich, last couple of years under Callahan. So my senior year was 06.
Hastings is the home of Kool-Aid.
So I've heard that. So I was born there, lived there till I was 3. My dad's job took him out the state of Washington. So I actually grew up in the state of Washington, rooting for Nebraska. Nobody caring what I have to say because I wanted to talk Husker sports halfway across the country. So luckily, somebody seems to be interested in what I have to say now, but I had to come back to the good guys in order for that to happen, I think.
Was it obvious as a freshman in high school that you were going to play college football?
No, long story short, I actually was better at baseball growing up, and I thought I was going to play professional baseball. I was a quarterback in high school. I could throw the ball 84 yards. I know it was 84 because I never got 85, and that made me mad. And I threw 95 playing baseball in high school. And so long story short, I ended up tearing the UCL right here. Tommy John's, okay? But this was a little bit back in the day when medicine wasn't quite the same. Basically, I was going into my junior year of high school. I was going to have to sit out of every sport, not just baseball, every sport. I couldn't lift. I couldn't do anything, which I hated every single thing about that. I was like, okay, when I come back as a senior, will I be able to pitch? Because it was all about pitching. That's what I thought I was going to do. And they're like, it's 50-50. I was like, wait, I'm going to sit out and miss everything and I might pitch as a senior? So I said, I just started getting a bunch of letters. Like I'd gotten a football letter from Idaho was the first one I ever got. Then A&M, then Michigan. I think those were the first 3. UCLA was right in there. And I was like, can I play football without having to get this surgery? Like, can I go lift weights and hit people? And I was like, they were like, yes. And I was like, well, I'm the quarterback. Oddly enough, the throwing motion is so different from baseball to football. Because in baseball, you've got this big whip and stress on the elbow. Whereas football, it's kind of right here. It's not anywhere near the stress. They're like, you can still play quarterback without the surgery, which shocked me. I did. I played quarterback my junior and senior year, never had the surgery. It hurt a lot at times, the elbow. It definitely bothered me, but it never, I shouldn't say it hurt. I shouldn't say it affected me, though. I just had to ice it a ton. But anyways, I digress. That's how I ended up going into football.
Hold on 1 second. 1 second. 6'6", 297, 4.72. Is that a typo, 4.72? Because a person that big shouldn't be able to move that fast.
The only typo was I was 295 that day. 295, 472.
Were they timing it with like a Rolex or something, or a sundial, or a manual stopwatch?
Wouldn't the sundial go the other way? Wouldn't that make me slower? You ever seen the Little Giants movie when the larger kid is running the 40 and Ed O'Neill, who's the coach, he's like clocking him and the kid runs it and he comes back and he's like, "What'd I run, coach? What'd I run?" He goes, "I don't know, son. I don't have a sundial." And I've never forgotten that line my whole life. And so to me, a sundial means slow. I don't know what it actually means, but it means to me slow. So,
well, we'll take it at face value. That's amazingly fast. That's like, that's fear-inducing for people to see someone that big chasing you that fast. And then they put you in the 3, but we'll get to that eventually. It's like, no, that fast goes on the edge.
Okay, so you make this transition. You're playing quarterback. When did football like focus in for you? Like, I'm going to go play college football.
When I decided not to have the surgery, because I was going to have to make a decision between baseball and football. I liked football more. I was better at baseball. So the conundrum was, do I do what I like more, or do I do what I'm better at? I hadn't started playing football until middle school, and I didn't play defense until my senior year of high school. I was going to be a quarterback. That's what I was being recruited as in football. And so the decision was made easier for me. So going into my junior year, it was all about football. Then the decision was quarterback or defense. My high school coach didn't want me to play defense because I was the quarterback. He wanted to protect me. I hated that idea. So going into my senior year, I said, I need to play defense. And I didn't like quarterback. I mean, in my mind, if I was going to throw, I was going to go play baseball. If I was going to play football, I wanted to hit somebody. Like, that was how I looked at it. Obviously, baseball was out of the equation. I didn't like quarterback. I wanted to go hit people. So long story short, I ended up playing defense for the first time ever going into my senior year of high school. Nebraska, actually, when I went to their camp before my senior year, they told me I wasn't good enough to play there. Oregon offered me as a quarterback, then pulled the offer when I said I just want to play defense. And so it was an interesting dynamic. Long story short, my last game, my senior year, I got a lot better throughout the year, having never done it to now I'm actually playing defense. I had 22 tackles my last game, and we sent the film in, and that was what got them to start actually recruiting me, talking about Nebraska specifically. I still had other offers from Oregon State, Washington State, but that's what got them to specifically start looking at me. And then when I came in, my visit was right before December. And I'll never forget, it was George Darlington, who was my main recruiter. He was telling me the story about how they got Neil Smith in the 80s. And this was like 6 months prior to the December visit, but it all connected in my mind. So it was the previous summer. I think it was right before they said you're not good enough to play here. He goes, yeah, the only reason we got Neil Smith is because we offered him last minute. We couldn't get who we actually wanted. And he turned out to be Neil Smith. So now fast forward 6 months and I'm on my visit and I finally get an offer like last minute. And I'm like, oh, they couldn't get who they wanted, so they offered me. And so that's kind of how I took it. But it all ended up working out all right.
I played basketball against Neil Smith. I was at Nebraska in the 80s, and oh my God, was he just a force to be reckoned with. Him and Junior Miller would play basketball at the Coliseum back in the day. So you get to Nebraska 2003 or 2002, you have a redshirt year. Looks like from your Wikipedia stats here, it started slow, but man, you finished strong. You ended up the Big 12 Player of the Year, right?
Yeah, 03 to 06. My redshirt freshman year, that was the year Bo was the coordinator.
Yeah.
I believe Kelsey was gone, so I think it was Trevor Johnson, Bernard Thomas were the starters that year. I could be wrong about that. And then my sophomore year was my first year I was supposed to start. And actually, I hurt my ankle, and I only played about 3 games that year. So my junior, senior year were my first full years of actually starting and playing.
Got it. But you ended up, am I reading that right? Big 12 player, or was it Nebraska Defensive Player of the Year? Yeah, all Big 12 pick in 2006. Is that right?
So if I remember right. I see
you've done your homework here, Jay. Is this the first time you're reading this? It's like, well, what the hell? You have a guest on here? It's like, is it Carriker or is it Carriker? I'm not quite sure how to pronounce it here.
Adam, he was going to whiten his teeth for this one. So that's Bob's prep.
That's all right. Nothing wrong with that.
Where I was sponsored, but I got some.
There you go.
Scripts ready to go.
I haven't looked at my Wikipedia page in a while. Like, does this still say I did long jump in high school and I boxed at Wesleyan? Like, for a while, people were like, "Did you box at Nebraska Wesleyan?" I'm like, "No." Did you do long jump in high school? I'm like, "Nope, I did not."
It says you.
I don't know what's true on there. What's that?
Yes, you received all state honors for your shot put prowess and long jump efforts as a senior.
Nope, never did track. Not true.
Okay.
I mean, it sounds great, but it's not true. So, football, basketball, baseball, I did really well in those 3. I never did track though.
Okay. First round pick in 2007 for the Rams. Is that accurate?
Yes, that is accurate. I think when it comes to Nebraska, I think it was Big 12 D Lineman of the Year and then some team awards. I think so.
Got it. And then you had a nice career in the NFL, 65 games. Combined 125 tackles. What was your favorite? Did you like St. Louis or Washington better? Or both?
Probably Washington, but St. Louis was, and then when I got there, people were like, it's a baseball town. And I was like, okay, but the Rams have been good. Like, we've got Torrey Holt, Orlando Pace, Isaac Bruce, Steven Jackson, Mark Bolger just made the Pro Bowl. It was definitely a baseball town. And then I think I actually told somebody one time, I think the hockey is second, like the St. Louis Blues, I think were second.
Yeah.
And I wasn't trying to take a shot at people. It's the least excitable game day atmosphere I think I've ever seen since high school. And that's not me trying to take a shot. That's just my opinion. So
cool.
That's why they left. Let's get out of here.
There you
People
go.
are excited enough.
At some point you get married and you start having kids. This guy's prolific, Bob. He's got 5 kids. Is that right?
Yes. Yes.
That's prolific. Like I'm Peyton Manning.
He's a quarterback. Yeah. Putting the puck in the net. There you go. Let's go.
We have 6 kids. 6 kids.
I'm the youngest of 11 kids. So
I'm the youngest of 6.
Oh, there you go.
You're in good company here.
All right.
Although I just visited my niece who lives in Utah, and they just had their 6th kid. Oh my gosh, I forgot how much energy kids have. So my kids are all out of college now. It's like, how old is your youngest?
So Jordan is 7. We have twins that are 9. Trinity's 11. Trinity's turned 12. Addison's 13. Jacob's 15. So we didn't spread them out at all. And there's only one boy. So it's me and Jacob versus the world, pretty much.
Any giants any future athletes in the collection?
Our one daughter is, we call her the small one of the group, and she's 65, and she's 65th percentile in height and weight, because all of her siblings are 95th to 99th percentile in height and weight. So she looks small, but she's not actually. So everyone else is rather large.
Okay. Now, is your wife a Nebraska girl, or did you meet her in your career?
Yeah, so her family has had a farm in western Nebraska for, I think, 110 years now. I met her while I was at the university. Her brother, Jeff McBride, no relation to Charlie McBride, but Jeff McBride was a walk-on defensive end, 2 years older than me. And we were friends, so that's actually how I met my wife, Angie.
Nice.
Your buddy's sister. There you go. Did you have to?
Okay, you say it like that. That comes across bad. I got her number from him. I said, "Hey, you give me the number. We're good to go," and he gave it to me.
It's like, every time I see my sister,
Christmas every year now, when he sees me at Christmas every year now, I let him know it's his fault. I'm here because of you. It's your fault.
So you have to school me. I'm not originally from Nebraska, but when you get married in Nebraska, does everybody ride in on a tractor, or is it a horseback, or is it a hay-covered wagon? How does it work there in Nebraska?
Well, we use camels, but that's mostly because it was at Christmas and there was wise men. No, I don't know. It was your normal wedding, nothing too crazy. Yeah. I think we actually had a limo. We went fancy, if I remember correctly. So
nice, good for you. Okay, we got the background. Let's move on to the current events.
Yeah,
Nebraska and Wisconsin.
Conversation is going to take a bit of a more somber turn.
Talk about wandering in the desert. 2 offenses wandering in the desert, looking for salvation.
Where is this program, Adam? I search, I look to you for answers every week, and what I see coming out of the TV at me is frustration, like we're frustrated. It feels very similar. Yeah. What is wrong with this group?
So, well, I'll tell you where I think we're at, because Sunday morning I woke up and I was like, I'm not going to do a prediction show this week going into Wisconsin. I didn't want to do a prediction show. I don't really want to talk about the game on the shows that I do. I just want to see what happens. And if we lose, I'll be less upset and mad. That was my attitude. I go to help coach my twins basketball team on Sunday morning at 8 a.m. because we have to have 9-year-olds play at 8 a.m. on a Sunday. And I get there, and the 2 other coaches are like, "Did you hear we're favored?" I was like, "What sport?" They're like, "Football." I was like, "Why?" Yeah, boy. I was like, "Why?" My response was, "Why?" And to be fair, I hadn't gotten up to speed on Wisconsin yet. I knew their quarterback was out, and their running back had transferred like a month into the season. I didn't know they fired their offensive coordinator. I didn't know they hadn't scored more than a touchdown in a game, like more than 1 touchdown in a game in over a month. I hadn't gotten up to speed on all that. Then like a day or 2 goes by, and all of a sudden we're a 2.5 point favorite. It's gone up. And I'm like, hell, Like, I'm truly shocked. And then Raiola makes the bowl game guarantee. Well, he actually did that, I think, after the game, but then it started to get some traction. So lo and behold, I end up doing a prediction show. Of course I did. And so when it comes to where the team is, it's like, I always convince myself I'm not going to get my hopes up again. I'm not. And then I get my hopes up again. It's inevitable. This time I blame everybody else. This is not my fault this time. I'm the one who gets everybody else's hopes up, but this week I blame other people. So for me, where we're at, if we can beat Wisconsin, which we're favored, it's at home, it's senior day, and I don't think it really has a whole lot to do with us. I think it has more to do with them being in disarray, if I'm being honest with you. And I do like that we're at home on senior day. There is emotions that go along with that. I remember my senior day was very emotional. I played really good that day. So I'm hoping that we can, score one more point than the other guys, and the good guys can get the win. If we can do that, Iowa's struggling. Like, again, I got my hopes up. What if we beat Iowa, and what if we beat Wisconsin, and we're 7-5, we go into a bowl game? I don't know if that's going to happen, but here is what is likely. We have the 19th ranked recruiting class in the country. I spoke with Dawson Merritt, who just flipped from Bama. He's guaranteed me there's 2 more players, at least. He said at least 2 more players that are similar to him that are coming soon.
From Bama or elsewhere?
Somewhere else.
He didn't give me. He didn't want to steal their moment.
Okay, got it.
So he didn't use the word flip. He said commit/flip is what he said. He combined it. And I didn't want to pressure him. Like, he didn't want to take their moment, and I didn't want to put him in a tough spot. So that's what I know. And so if they're similar to him, that's a potential top 15 recruiting class. Maybe top 12. I don't know. Top 13. We go 7-5. Who knows what happens in the bowl game? All of a sudden, this middle of the season, since we went 5-1, and if we can win, my hand's over here, but you can't see it. 5-1, and then we win our last 2. It makes for a long middle of the season. But if we can separate that, and even if we just win one of these last 2 games and become bowl eligible, because I do think the recruiting class will be top 20, top 15. All of a sudden, now you have legit momentum going into the offseason. I think with Rule, what I'm hoping is that we're at the darkest right before a little bit of a ascent, because he's not Dion. People want to compare, and I've done it. People want to compare him to Dion. People want to compare him to Kurt Signetti. And I can point to Florida State. Hey, they were great. Now they suck. Well, they did it through the portal. How good is Colorado going to be next year without Shadur, without Travis, and who knows what he's going to do in the portal? I don't have high expectations for them. So for me, and then even at Indiana with Signetti, it's a whole bunch of 5th and 6th year seniors that he brought from James Madison, from Curtis Rourke from Ohio. Ohio's leading receiver's a senior. Can they do it again and again? That's the question. So is it a fair comparison to compare Rule to them? Because Rule wants to build something that's going to sustain over time. So I have been very mad. I have been very pissed. And you see that when you watch me. I don't know if I've just calmed down this week. I don't know if I'm an idiot for getting my hopes up again. But when you ask me where are we at, part of me says, you're an idiot, Adam. It's going to happen again. Part of it says we're at the darkest right before a slow ascent that maybe lasts a little bit longer than Colorado and Indiana. Maybe. I don't know how long theirs is going to.
Adam, let's be clear. Your idiocy is secure because you reached out to us to be part of this podcast. So you're good. You're good. So you don't have to doubt that ever again. It's like, were you drunk texting or what was going on? I don't know what happened, but
no, I was completely sober. Does that make it better or worse?
I'm not sure. We'll find out soon enough. But I'm with you. I'm optimist, baby. I'm an optimist. We're gonna win the last 2 games. It's like I watched that game last week at SC, and I was like, if you could take a ruler and break it into 4 pieces and just stick it on the ends of some defensive back's fingers,
oh my gosh,
you would have won the game by 2 touchdowns. It was great. Like, so many bounces went against them. And we had Tim Miles on a couple of weeks ago. He's like, you know what? The odds are going to swing in your favor. And this is the week. Our long national drought is over. This week.
Huge. It'd be huge.
Rule finally said it. Players have to make plays. And that USC game there was 4 or 5 of those things where the ball was right there to be deflected or caught or intercepted. and it was just frustrating to watch. Now, Dylan Raiola, I didn't get a chance to go into it, but I saw your headline on Husker Max. You were talking about Dylan Raiola this week. What's your assessment of how he's doing, where he is? I think he's been a bit underwhelming. Our offense is ranked 100th in the nation, total offense 99th. He certainly hasn't lived up to the hype. The guy's now being sort of called out as being a true freshman. What's your thoughts?
Well, so real quick, to put a button on the last two games, I interviewed Charlie McBride, and this is what got me looking beyond Wisconsin. I interviewed him, and I said, hey, how do you think we're going to end the year, the last two games? He goes, I think we're going to win, Adam. I go, what does that mean? My wife edited that part out. I go, what does that mean? He goes, I think we're going to beat Wisconsin and Iowa. He goes, and I think that's where I got it, the start ascending from him. I think he used a different word, but that's what got me looking beyond Wisconsin, because I was like, all right, all of a sudden we're favored in Wisconsin. I'll do a freaking prediction show. Maybe I should look beyond Wisconsin because Charlie's not a BSer. So anyways, just to put a button on that interview goes out tonight. But he's the one that's like, yeah, I think we'll win the last two games. And then my conversation with Dawson, I was like, man, we could be 7-5, have a top 15 recruiting class. I mean, it could be completely different too. But as far as Dylan, it was funny to me all off season. Everyone's like, Dylan's the guy. I talked with Vershawn Jackson, who's a 3-time national champ. He's like, that's his team. That's his locker room. This was in August. I'm like, Vershawn, he hasn't even walked on the field in a game yet, let alone taken a snap, let alone done anything. He's still a true freshman. How can that be his team? I know he's the quarterback, but you can't just show up and have it handed to you. Like, I hated that statement from a guy who's won 3 national titles. And several times, if you've watched my shows, you've heard me say, you never know what you're going to get from a true freshman. And after the spring game, people shouted me down when Dylan looked so good. Keep in mind, Matt Rule said going into that game, I want to throw the ball, and he wanted points. Like, he set it up that way. And then early on in the season, Dylan's exceeding my expectations. 3 games in, I think he had like 9 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. I was like, holy crap, this kid's blowing it out the water. The first half of Illinois, the defense wasn't playing good. Well, the Illinois defense wasn't playing good. We couldn't run the ball. It was all on Dylan. I was like, holy cow, this kid is doing it. And then the second half happened, and he hasn't looked the same since. My feeling is people should have remembered he's a 19-year-old true freshman. I don't care if there's 15 stars next to your name. You're still a 19-year-old true freshman. And I don't like that the coaches put so much on him. They made a mistake, with all due respect, with Jeff Sims last year, and they made a mistake not with the choosing Dylan, but putting so much on Dylan. That's on them. And then you watch other teams. Illinois figured out in the second half, they showed the blueprint for what he struggles with. Pressure. You bring the pressure. Our offensive line struggles to protect him, not as bad as last year, and he struggles to handle it. And other teams have followed suit. We have not developed him properly so he can handle it, and we have not adjusted properly. Other teams are basically doing different versions of the same thing. Our answer was to run 12 screenplays versus Ohio State. Now we're scared to call a screenplay because of the scrutiny. So for me, and I'm going to say it again, we're not utilizing Heinrich. Like, he's another tool that can take pressure off Dylan that we're not utilizing. And Dylan could still be the starter. So for me, when it comes to Dylan, the only thing he's done this year that I don't like when he slid at USC. I don't like that. Other than that, I don't put a lot on him. I will look at it differently next year because he will have started for an entire year. For this year, I look at the coaches more than I look at him. And again, next year, that will change.
So speaking of coaches, good segue to Dana Holgorsen. What do you know about him, and is he the answer? It seemed to me at USC, the ball got out a little quicker, the scheme was a little simpler, and it seemed to produce some results. What are your thoughts?
So for me, and we don't know that Dana's going to be here next year, okay? But when I talked about looking ahead to next year, I didn't bring up the offense. I figured you'd ask me a question about it, so I was waiting. But part of that is, even if Dana's not the guy, Marcus Satterfield had struggled so much. If he were still going to be the OC, I would not feel as optimistic about next year at all. And I'm not trying to take a shot at him. He struggled, okay? And we needed someone else. And if that someone else could be Dana, you would have Dana Holgorsen as an offensive coordinator, Tony White as a defensive coordinator. So you've got a guy who's been a head coach, probably will be again someday, a guy who's going to be a head coach, And then you've got Matt Rule with better assistants, hopefully around him. Hopefully he evaluates a few of the assistants on offense, especially. That helps me feel better. If you were telling me, hey, Adam, we're top 15 recruiting class and we ended 7-5, but we're not changing the offense, we're not changing the play caller, I wouldn't feel very good about it. That helps contribute to me feeling better about next year, especially if it can be Dana Holgerson.
Bob, do you need the Heimlich maneuver?
Oh, I'm all choked up. You said 2 wins. I've been coughing ever since. It's like a chicken bone stuck in there or something like that. So I saw one of your clips. I can't remember which show it was from. Is there like a little bit of a wetware problem with the coaches and halftime adjustments, not making enough adjustments at halftime?
Yes. I've felt that way a lot. I feel like we struggle managing the clock going into halftime a lot of times for whatever reason at the end of games. And then I feel like in the second half, like you notice, I said the first half of Illinois, and then the second half, they did things to us and we couldn't adjust. It's happened in a lot of games, except for Purdue. We've been outscored in every second half this entire season. Maybe UTEP. UTEP and Northern Iowa would be exceptions. I'm thinking about Big Ten games. So just Big Ten games. Purdue's the only team we've outscored in the second half. And that has to be either strength and conditioning, which I think Corey Campbell's done a good job, or halftime adjustments. And I fall more on the halftime adjustments because I see other teams doing different things in the third and fourth quarter, and I don't see us responding to what they're doing.
Do you think that the wrestling experiment for the polar bear hurt him this year?
So, yes, I do. When he was doing that last year, it was very cool. A very unique story. And frankly, I don't think the story itself got enough attention, which is crazy because it got a ton. That's how cool I think the story is. When I was a senior in high school, I was 225. My heaviest I ever got in the NFL, I was 317. So I know what it's like, and this was gradually over time, but I know what it's like to put on weight. I know the difference that it feels. When I retired, I went from 315 all the way down to 215. I lost 100 pounds. Okay. I didn't stay there, obviously. This is a true story.
No one's judging. No one's judging.
I got to 215.
Just look in the middle and no one's judging.
I got to 215. The first thing I did, I went to Dunkin' Donuts and I got a dozen donuts. I had a flight. I planned on eating 6 of them, which is ridiculous in itself, and then getting on the flight. My flight got delayed. I was home alone for an extra 2 hours and all 12 of the donuts were gone. And by the next morning, I was 228. Like, bam, 12 pounds overnight. And it was okay. I was a little bit too skinny. Now I'm about 270. So I got back up to 270. My point is, I know what it's like to put on weight. I know what it's like to lose weight. I know what that's like. He had to lose it quickly, put it on quickly, and it's hard to do that, and it's hard to do it in a healthy way. And then one thing that was overlooked, he never really got an off season. So he never got a winter conditioning because he was wrestling. So he didn't get a chance to develop and get better. He actually had to lose weight. And then he never got an off season. Wrestling is insanely physical. And then you go, and I know he didn't do a lot in spring ball, but he missed development over the winter. His weight's going up and down. He never got a true off season, and then he has to come back. So I didn't want to talk about it, but I brought it up one time. I didn't do it on the Chronicles. I brought it up one time on my Adam Carriker show on 93.7 The Ticket here in Lincoln. And I even asked Jared Crick about it. He was on the show with me that day. I said, what do you think about this? He goes, that's hard. And I was like, thank God somebody else brought it or said it too. Because I'm like, this is going to be hard. And I don't think it's going to help him. And that was the only time I said it because I didn't want to put it out in the universe. Do I think it's affected him? I 100% do.
And you can compare that to Ty Robinson's progression has been steady, right?
Yes. Imagine if Nash were playing the same way.
Yeah.
Making a note here that says, do not invite Carriker and Stockwell to a barbecue unless you have a truckload of food.
Just got to make our predictions, and then we got to do you're going to take us out.
Take it out.
So the predictions, I'm going to take the under 21-14. I'm going to call a win. I'm looking at the stats over here on the left side of my screen. We got a slight advantage, 2.5 point favorite. But the under, both these offenses are struggling. So 21-14 is from Commander Stockwell. Bob Fraley?
I will say 2017, and we end our time in the desert. I don't care if it's the Duke's Mayo Bowl, the Detroit Bowl, or the Chicken Bowl. I don't care. bowl game this year.
Adam, you don't know this about me, but I retired Navy commander, flew that.
Oh, we have to get that one in there, don't we? Yeah,
awesome. That's cool.
The Navy Commander Bowl.
I like it.
Well, final thought on Dylan. I actually think Dylan and Dana, they're a potential match made in heaven. Just to put that out there for next year. Again, let the Kool-Aid flow. Why live in the real world? Let's drink Kool-Aid. Okay.
You're from Hastings. Drinks Kool-Aid.
As far as the Wisconsin game, I've gone from I don't want to do a prediction. I don't want to talk about it. We're probably going to lose. I'm just not going to be mad. That was me preventing myself from being mad in the gut reaction afterwards. Okay. Well, now I'm all set up to be uber happy or uber mad. So get ready for that. I'm in. I do think it's going to be ugly. On my show that went out last night, I called it the ugly duckling game. Okay. The ugly duckling is that butt ugly little duck that everybody thinks is ugly. But one day it grows up to be a beautiful swan, okay? But in the meantime, nobody thinks that duck is good looking except for the mom duck. The mom duck thinks that butt ugly little duck is beautiful. Everyone else thinks it's ugly. That's this game this Saturday. They're struggling on offense. We're struggling on offense. It's going to be ugly, probably bad football at times. But if we can score one more point than them, it's going to be a swan in my eyes. And that's all I care about. I've got Nebraska winning, definitely in the under, 13-10, because we make field goals now.
Rock fight. Nice. By the way, you better hope that Nebraska wins, because if they lose, what podcast are you going to call next week? Like, holy cow.
That's a good question. I'll just start drunk treating people.
Stand out on the street corner. You have a podcast? Come on.
All right, this has been fun. So at the end of our podcast, we always do the Go Big Red chant. Okay. You're gonna lead us this time. So you'll go first, Bob goes second. I'll finish this up.
All right. Go Big Red! Go Big Red!